really quickly.
Okay.
Like that. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be live with Jo Jakeman.
Hello.
Do you want to start us off with an introduction to you and your books?
Yeah, sure. I'm Jo Jakeman. I live in Cornwall. I've written, I've published 5 thriller books so far, and the most recent one is The Vanishing Act. Where's the mirror? There. It's one of my favourite covers they've ever done for me. I absolutely love it. I love the colour and everything. This one's another one set in Cornwall, and when a body, human remains are found in an abandoned mine shaft, and an anonymous tip-off says it's the remains of Elizabeth King, who disappeared 30 years ago whilst hitchhiking. But somebody knows that's not true. Eloise knows that's not true because she is Elizabeth King. She changed her name and is in hiding and wants to know why everything has suddenly sprung up 30 years later. So that's the mystery. With the help of the a Truth Seekers Facebook group, who've read a lot of crime books and know how this kind of stuff goes. They're sort of internet sleuthing to try and find out who the remains really are.
This was my first book of yours. And when it arrived in the post, I was like, what a great premise. Like, because it just seems like, I was like, I can't think of another book I've read that starts like that.
I kind of wanted to do almost like how to solve your own murder sort of book, if you see what I mean. And I was thinking, well, how can you solve your own murder if you're still alive? And so I wanted it to be sort of like somebody thinks she's dead. Do they think they've killed her? Is it somebody who's after her? And so it just all stemmed out from that, really. I wanted somebody involved in solving their own murder.
Are all of your books standalones, or have you got a couple
all of them are standalone. I have so much respect for people who write a series. I love all the characters I do write, but I don't feel that anything I've written has the right kind of thing to bring the characters out of retirement time and time again. I don't do police procedural, which obviously lends itself very well to a series. And even my internet sleuths, I thought maybe they might come out another time in the future, but it's I haven't yet written a book where I feel that it's got something to keep me and an audience interested forever. I quite like a new idea. I love exploring new characters. Like I say, I really do appreciate the craft that goes into keeping the same characters fresh for a series and finding new things for them to do. I think it's a slightly harder job than inventing new people each time. So I'll stick with this for now.
Although, like you said, that internet sleuthing group, I would read the hell out of them doing another investigation.
I love them. They were really meant to be kind of secondary characters to my main characters, and they were the most fun to write. Those people felt very real to me, and they were fun. And so like you say, they were kind of my favorite bit of it. So I left it slightly open that there were other mysteries that they could be getting involved in at the end. And I thought, if there's enough demand to bring them out of retirement, they will happily come out of retirement. But for now, their stories are sort of finished for now. Let's say for now.
Well, I'm going to join the camp that wants them to come back out of retirement.
Yay! I'll make sure my editor's listening to this.
I really liked it's the moment where they kind of are all coming to meet each other, and then it just escalates, and there's like, we'll make badges, and then we'll have t-shirts, then we'll have a hoodie, and then we'll do
yeah I mean,
I'm sure there are actually groups like that.
I mean, when I was doing research, I joined quite a few of the Facebook groups that do look into missing people, and there are some characters on there, and I wanted to bring some of that into my book. And I mean, you do get the people who, I mean, honestly, I was kind of amazed at how quickly people can find out information on the internet. So even some of the groups I'm on weren't looking for missing people as such, as in people who've disappeared under suspicious circumstances. Sometimes it's people who are just saying, I'd love to be reunited with my best friend from high school. Most of these are American. Within half an hour, these internet sleuths are going, could this be the person you're looking for? Like, wow, yes, it is. Like the skills of some of these people tracking people down. I mean, I was amazed. And then there was always somebody in the group going, wake up people, it's alien abduction. So, you know, there was just characters, just the absolute characters. And I love the fact that people were getting quite passionate about people they've never heard of, they've never met, and yet they wanted to get to the bottom of, you know, when remains are found or somebody's been missing for 10 years. And these people who have no skin in the game, so to speak, but people love a mystery. People love to solve a mystery. And even though I'm no longer researching this book, you know, it's been written for quite some time, I haven't left all of those Facebook groups. I still love to like pop in every now and again and see what they're doing and those characters. So it was just a no-brainer for me to have that kind of group in the book because I love them.
So I mean, we've got some of your research there, but how
Mm.
do you come up with the ideas? Because that is such a creative idea for a story.
It's a few different things. I have not this, and trust me, this is not an arrogant thing when I say I have lots of ideas. Not many of them have legs, so I'm forever going, what about this? Because I've heard something on the news, or and I quite often just write them down, and I think, that would be good. But they're 9 out of 10 of them don't go anywhere. They don't have enough to make a full story. It's just an interesting premise, an interesting jumping off point. But if there's an idea that I keep coming back to, that I keep playing with, or maybe more than one idea will merge, and I'll go, you know, I want to explore this idea. So with the Vanishing Act, obviously I had a whole missing people angle, which I was fascinated by. I wanted somebody solving their own murder. And because I live in Cornwall, and I'm very much into the outdoors, I go on the coastal paths a lot. I swim a lot. The landscape around here, you have a lot of these derelict engine houses, you know, for the tops of mines. People are forever losing their dogs down there and things. And I kind of find them I find them interesting, but I also find them kind of romantic. I sort of think of like the people who have, you know, worked down the mines. You see quite a few people making them into homes, making them beautiful. And, you know, and I think about all the underground tunnels there and how they're about to lose their garden as it goes into a tunnel. So it's a few little things I'm thinking about missing people. And then I'm driving somewhere and I'm looking up at an engine house and I suddenly think, it'd be a great place to hide a body. Who goes down there? You know, you could really get lost down there. It's remote and you're looking around, you're going, there's no CCTV, there's no cameras on the roads. This is remote as. And Cornwall has a lot of remote places. So it's a lot of ideas that come together over probably quite a few months. I tend to always write at the same time because I have kids. I try and write within the school term time. So I'll finish a book at the beginning of summer before they break up for the summer holidays, and I will send that off to my editor. I'll try and have everything finished. And so the summer months tends to be when I'm mulling over a new idea, and I'm out a lot and I'm listening into conversations and I'm seeing the landscape. And then so far it's always worked. By the time September comes around and they go off to college, I've got enough sort of characters in my head that I'm ready to sit down and write the story. And you'll talk to a lot of authors who plan meticulously and they know exactly where it's going. I don't, because I think if I knew exactly where it was going, I think the reader would. I think I'd really obviously signpost it. I'm not a genius writer like some of these who can give you all these misdirections. I'm writing it feeling, well, I need a group of suspects. It's going to be, I don't know, 4 or 5 suspects. I want to give them all a reason, but I'm not entirely sure who I'm going to go with until a little bit later on. And sometimes I change my mind as to, you know, I'll have a few reasons why they would want to do this. And I find then it stops me being complacent and writing too many clues in, because as a reader, I love it when I kind of go, never saw that coming. You know, like, I can see where that came from, but yeah, that's a shock to me. And so yeah, that's how I tend to write my books. Little bit loose plan, but feeling it as I go along.
Well, I'm listening to that and I'm amazed because I feel like it was a really rich and complex book.
Oh, brilliant. Reads like that. Thank you.
That it did make you go wow at the end, but it was you're right. There were a few people who could have done it. You didn't work it out until the end. Like I had not figured it out.
Oh, good. Because I think readers are so clever. I mean, people who read crime books, they've probably read a lot of crime books. It's not many people who will have picked this up and it's the first crime book they've ever read. So you've seen it done a lot. You know when somebody is introduced who's a bit shady, you know as a reader, you got to look into that person. So I'm not only trying to come up with a good story, I'm also trying to come up with something that readers aren't going to go, yeah, by page 34, I know who's done it. Because that's not very satisfying as a reader. And so I'm not battling there. Hopefully I'm working with a reader, because I'm a reader myself and I know that I get quite frustrated. I always want to know who's done it, and I kind of pat myself on the back a little bit like, yeah, I worked it out. But then I'm a bit disappointed with myself that I worked it out early. I love a book where I think I've worked it out and then I'm completely wrong at the end. And I go, ooh, clever.
Yeah,
That's
like
why the readers who read my books, I want them to go, oh, yeah, definitely worked that one out. And then go, ooh.
I think that's the best moment in any kind of crime thing, isn't it? It took myself to see The Mousetrap about a year ago, and at the break, I was texting my husband, going, "I'm pretty sure I know who's done it. Pretty sure I've worked it out." And he didn't come with me, and he was like, "Oh, okay." And then at the end, I was like, "I was wrong."
And sometimes it's good to be wrong. You don't mind being wrong, do you? When you're wrong-footed in a clever way, and you can look back and you can see that all the clues were there. Nobody wants somebody to be the murderer or whatever it is that's only been introduced 2/3 of the way through the book, or is really out of left field. It has to be you can understand their motivation. So it's quite a juggling act to be able to get that right, I think.
Also makes sense when you were saying about your kids going back to college, because you've got the kind of college age sort of young people involved in this. So right.
Yeah. I mean, I've got twin boys and they're 17, so their peak, they are sort of like the age of Holly, who's just finished her A levels. So it's I mean, they say write what you know, which would be very dull if I only wrote what I knew. But I listen to a lot of teenagers. There are a lot of teenagers in my house at all times. So yeah, I felt I knew Holly. I could relate to Holly, and I'm very careful not to put teenage boys in my books that will just sound exactly like my sons. So I'm more likely to use a teenage girl to bring the story along. So it doesn't sound like I am just mining my own life. But yeah, I think you'd see if you kind of went back through my books. Like my first book has, I think, a 7-year-old. I think my kids were a little bit older than that when I wrote it. But I am writing sort of what I know, and there would be no point me write. Well, no point, but it'd be more difficult for me to have written a teenager's point of view when I started out, because I really only knew 7 and 8-year-olds at that point. So yeah, I think as I'm getting older and as my kids are getting older, I think my protagonists are getting older. I think, the issues that my protagonists are having are probably issues that I've dealt with something similar myself, or my kids are dealing with. So that's where the write what you know bit comes into it, I guess.
And then obviously you're very inspired by the location.
Yeah.
In the short time we've been talking together, you've talked about how influential Cornwall and its coasts and
it's. I mean, I'm not Cornish. My husband's Cornish, which is why we've ended up coming back to where he grew up. And from as soon as we've been together like 25 years, and he's always called Cornwall home, no matter where in the country we've lived. He's always like, Cornwall is home, Cornwall is home, and I've never got it. It's a nice place for holidays, until we moved here with the kids, and I'm kind of low-key obsessed by it. It's very different to anywhere I've lived before. It's very strong community vibes, especially in the more rural places. And I could set 100 stories here and never run out of ideas. I think there's some the difference between somewhere that's beautifully pretty, like St Ives, that everybody's heard of, those little fishing towns and those kind of communities where you've got a lot of tourists, and the wild and woolly Bodmin Moor, and the folk tales of the beast of Bodmin Moor and things like that. It's like two different types of Cornwall. So and the amount of stories here, and folklore and tales, and I just feel like everybody in Cornwall thinks they're a comedian. I mean, the characters I've met since I've been living down here, yeah, I absolutely love it. I mean, it's just amazing for me to get out and about. I mean, I had how many years? So about 7 years ago now, I had a stroke, and that really kind of changed my way of sort of like thinking about looking after myself. And so the getting out in nature and walking and getting fitter and stuff is it's not really just something I like to do. It's something I feel I have to do. It's a lot easier to do that in the sunshine on a nice beach than it was when I lived in Derby, and I was, walking the streets of Derby. It wasn't quite the same as walking the coastal path of Cornwall. So Cornwall makes it quite easy for you to get out and about. I mean, I'm not saying we don't have awful weather. I mean, it's been like raining for 3 weeks straight. But yeah, I love it down here. It's very easy to set books down here, and there's a lot of authors down here as well. So there's quite a nice network, even though we're a long way from London and where all like the book stuff happens. We've still got quite a nice network down here.
I guess it's got that history of it as well, hasn't it? If you think back to like when you were reading Famous Five and stuff when you were young, exactly. It's all like Cornwall and smugglers and...
Absolutely. I mean, Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca was one of my favourite books from a teen. I think it was probably my first sort of psychological thriller, really, that whole, something bad's going to happen. You can feel that build. And I think that was probably the first psychological thriller I ever read. And there's some books that need that setting. The setting plays such a part. And not to go too writery on you, but I like to think of the location a book is set as like the arena, in a way, like the location. There are plenty of books that could be picked up and set anywhere, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I like to sort of think, well, what are the drawbacks of being here? What are the positives of being? Why would you set it here? And I think a lot of, imagine Wuthering Heights set anywhere else but on the Yorkshire Moors. It wouldn't work. Do you know what I mean? The moors are so much part of that book. So just as much as Cornwall is such a part of Rebecca, and I'm not saying my book's like Rebecca Wuthering Heights type at all, obviously. But I really think that you're missing a trick if you don't use where that setting is. I think it can just add another layer onto your story. Just the weather, just the and as a crime writer, Cornwall's a gift. I mean, the amount of places you can't get mobile phone signal, or you're cut off, or the rising tide, or the treacherous rocks. Or there's so much here that is a gift.
That is true. And as someone who lives really close to where Wuthering Heights is set,
yeah.
It's probably really similar here as well, I guess.
Yeah,
into the wilds.
I bet. Yeah,
you could imagine some bodies being left around and
easily, and not found for a while, and
brooding people strolling around the moors and things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you can see how people come up with their ideas, just like on a morning dog walk, or morning stroll through the moors or what have you. You can understand how they start to build up that the feeling of foreboding in a book just because of the weather, just as the weather fronts coming in, as the mists coming in over the moors or something. How easy is it then to imagine something bad coming along with that weather front? I think I love it when a book uses that kind of the atmosphere as well, not just people's actions.
I think you're quite good at generating an atmosphere of everything not seeming right in the perfection, because it looks perfect initially, doesn't it? Like everything that where our main character is and where she's living and what she's doing and things. But you really quickly, even like when you first meet her and she's like going out the door and has her set routine.
Yes.
They're like introducing just something's not right.
Yeah, just the very fact that she's like, I will not have anything left to chance. I've bought my life to be, nothing's going to go wrong. Nothing's going to go wrong. I know exactly what's happening in my life. So as a reader, you're going, it's not going to last. We know this from having read so many books already. We know exactly how this is going to go. So the fact that she's holding on so tightly to nothing must go wrong today. Nothing must go wrong in my life. I've curated everything. you know she's going to fall harder because of a need for that control and that perfectionism.
Yeah, and then there's just like it's the other little bits that kind of drip in throughout as well. It's really hard to talk about it without giving any spoilers away, but there's like loads of moments where you kind of misdirect and you're thinking, oh, like this person doesn't look good. And you've just dripped it in so carefully, like through the story.
Yeah, I hope so. I try not to signpost things too much. I'm very much relying on the books that have gone before me, that people have read before. They know how this goes, and I use that audience expectation in my favor. So like people are reading it and expecting it to be this person, so I can go, haha, no, look over here. And that's the fun bit of writing for me.
So do all your books sit within that kind of psychological thriller genre?
Yeah, my first three were a lot darker. And they sort of like the first one covered sort of like domestic abuse, and the second one was somebody fresh out of prison for false alibi. So they were quite a lot darker. And then my last book, One Bad Apple, just I really lent in to the humor, and it was about private school and kids getting bullied, but the parents are behind the bullying and the school's bullying and the whole sort of thing. And that was largely based because I had kids at private school who were being bullied, so it was very easy for me to channel that. But there was a lot of humor. I met some incredibly hilarious parents, and and I channeled a lot of that, and I loved working with the humor. And I hadn't set out to write anything sort of lighter and funnier. It's just the way it happened to be. And another writer said to me, actually, Leslie Cara said to me, sometimes as a writer, you write the book you need to write at that time. And I think, I needed to write something lighter. I'd written some quite dark books, and I was dealing with something that was quite emotional for me, like, bullying. But I needed to write something light, and I enjoyed doing that so much. And then my publishers were like, we want more of that. We want more. We want crime. We want mystery. But we don't want it too dark. I mean, obviously there's a huge rise in people liking cozy crime, and I wouldn't say mine is cozy, but obviously the Richard Osmans of the world are outselling all the rest of us, because people are loving those kind of sleuthing, the bad guy gets their comeuppance kind of books. That's really popular at the moment. And I'm finding writing humor into my books, and not doing anything too so the deaths don't take place on the page in these last two books. And for me, it's more joyous to write. I'm not freaking myself out writing them. I'm not upsetting myself writing them, which I did a couple of times with my first books. So I think my books have got slightly warmer the more I've gone through them. So yeah, certainly first three darker psychological thrillers, and then these last two, I've been able to lean into the humor a bit more. I've got a new publisher with these last two, and one of the things they liked about my previous three books was the humor. So they were really happy for me to bring that to the fore, where I'd always felt that maybe I shouldn't have too much humor in my books because you're dealing with some quite dark subjects. So I don't want to make light of those things. But on the other hand, I know that when I'm, the same with most of the women I know, when you're in a dark spot, you're in a tight spot, sometimes humor is the only way to get out of it. You do make an inappropriate joke, or you have to laugh it off. And I do think that it's a bit of maybe a British thing as well. We see humor in some of these dark situations, so it's been a joy to lean into that. And that's really why I've got the Facebook group in The Vanishing Act, because that is the light relief, really. And it and they're the fun, and there's fun in the Eloise sections as well, but it's with the Facebook group that I could really let that go.
It's the relationship between Eloise and Holly, I think, that brings some of the joy as well, isn't it? Because they start off very much not liking each other.
Yeah, I think it's hard with a so their relationship obviously is starts off as her son's girlfriend, but it's her son's ex-girlfriend. It's all very sort of awkward. And obviously, as a mum with 17-year-old children, they're starting to get partners, bring people home and everything. And I always used to joke, like somebody said to me, I wonder what your kids' future partners will be like. And I said, I can tell you what they'll be like. Not good enough. And it was a joke. I was joking. But then there is that point, like, you are very protective of like who's around your kids. And when they start spending time with them rather than you, phoning their girlfriends up with their exciting news rather than you. And I just kind of thought I could sort of see that being quite an uncomfortable, and they end up being forced to work together. So some of the best relationships I think that we read about in literature is where there is that resistance, where they don't really want to get on, but they're thrown together to have to do it. And then their relationship grows, and especially those unlikely relationships, I think, are some of the most interesting ones to read and to write.
Yeah, and it worked so well in it. I think you were just so, like, Holly kind of draws you in. She's such a great character. I think she's probably my favourite.
Yeah, I love Holly.
In the book, but they're all good. They're so like, because what you've managed to create is people who are like really real.
Good, thank you.
You're not reading them thinking, oh, this is just like a book character. They all feel like genuinely like you go down the street and meet them.
I've done a lot more in this book than I have previously about getting to know my characters inside out, stuff that never makes it to the page, which I didn't do so much of when I was starting out. But I've just finished doing an MA in writing for script and screen. And it was a completely different way of looking at characters and writing. And you have to be very economic with what you put on the page. So every line has to tell you so much about, every scene has to do like 3 things and tell you a lot about the character. And so there was a lot of working on your characters before you even put a word on the page. So you knew exactly how they were going to respond. And I've always done a bit of very sort of broad background. Oh, they come from this is their story, this is their want, this is their desire, this is their need. But I've never gone into it in as much detail as I have with this book, knowing I probably would never use that stuff, but it meant I felt they were real to me. I can really picture them. And even some of like there's a guy in the Facebook group, Andy, who's he makes inappropriate comments. He's awful, really. But I liked him. I found him fun, and he kind of comes good in the end. He's still a bit of a pillock, but there are people like that. I know some people like that. But yeah, I felt I understood them. They weren't just names in a Facebook group. And even though they didn't get starring roles, the people in that group, I have a character biography for all of them. I know exactly what their secrets are. So if they did ever get another run out with another book, I would know what it is, why they have an involvement with being so desperate to get answers to mysteries and find missing people. I know what their motivation is, even though it didn't all come out in the book, because it would have been twice as long if I'd have explored all their personal stories as well. So I'm really glad that it does come across that they're quite well-rounded characters, even though they don't have a lot of page time. So that's good to know.
There's a really great guy as well who's in there. He's at the crime scene, and then he's in the group, and he like knows things that the police know.
Oh,
yeah.
He's I kind of wrote him as quite an odd character, but
I was suspicious of him for quite a long time.
Yes, he's there in his long dark coat at the crime scene and things. You got to look into these people.
Yeah, you're like, is he as friendly and helpful as he seems?
Yeah, good. Yeah. He's definitely in the mix, isn't he?
Yeah, he will. I mean, there's so many people in the mix that it's like, I think that's what makes it so interesting.
Good. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of characters, and I think there's always a difficulty with the book with lots of characters. You can sometimes get lost, like, hold on, who's that? And having to flick to previous chapters. And so I find that quite a challenge to make sure that, and that's another thing about making sure everybody has their own voice and that they feel unique, is that you're not going, who's this one again? And, and that even comes down to little things like having very different names for them all. Like Ken, quite an old fashioned name. So I'm giving the reader an impression of what kind of person he might be from the get-go. So that it's easier to follow all these people, because you could get completely lost if you've got a cast of like a dozen or more characters in a book. I get lost as a reader. I get lost if there's too many characters. So it's important to really make them stand out on their own.
So with the MA in script writing, would you be tempted to write your own adaptations of your books?
Yeah, I would love to. That is my big dream, is not necessarily to adapt my own books, but to adapt books. I'm kind of fascinated by things that are left out of books that make it onto the television screen. So that's kind of my thing. But yeah, I would love to. There is the book I'm writing at the moment, I also wrote as a screenplay for my MA. So I was writing them alongside each other. So I could really see what in the book I couldn't keep in the screenplay and things. So I'm finding that really fascinating, and I would love to adapt my books. My last one I have started adapting into a potential series. But this one I haven't yet, but that's not to say I wouldn't. If anybody approached me and said, would you have a shot at adapting this, I would be all over that. I would love to do that. That would be the absolute dream.
With Sam, who does the interviews with us, she likes to ask people if they're adapted, what character would you play?
Ooh. What character would I play in the book?
Yeah.
I'd have to be Eloise, really, if I'm the right age. Yeah, would I be? Yeah, I think I'd probably have to be. Yeah. Or maybe Mimi, the yoga instructor, because she's slightly out there, isn't she? I reckon that would be a fun character to play. She's a little bit self-obsessed, but she's a huge character.
Yeah, Mimi is great.
Yeah, she's fun. I like them all. I find them all fun characters. And with something we're always sort of told. So I do like to keep sort of learning about writing and about the craft. So I do read a lot of sort of trade books on it and stuff. And we're always told that those secondary characters don't know they're secondary characters. I really want to make sure that they've really got a good role, and they should still get killer lines as well. They should still get the funny lines, not just just because they're a secondary character. They're not there just to make up numbers in the background. So I hope that if it ever comes to be adapted, there's lots of people clamoring over wanting to be in it, because there's some great lines in there, and I hope I get to adapt it if that ever happens.
Well, I'm sure that Mimi in that book believes that she is the main character.
Without a doubt.
It is all about her story.
Yeah.
And she would probably tell everyone that as well.
Yeah. I think we all know a Mimi who makes everything about her.
Probably.
I don't think it's a bad bone in her body, Mimi. As a character, she's fun to write, because although she comes across as incredibly selfish and everything, she doesn't feel that she's walking all over everybody. She really does feel her problems are the biggest problems in the world. Yeah.
You show quite an interesting side to Cornwall as well, because I guess like a lot of people who don't know it as an area very well imagine it as like a touristy place. Probably a lot of people who are quite wealthy having like homes down there to retire and stuff. Yeah. And then your characters, a lot of them are just, kind of just making ends meet.
Yeah. There's a lot in the local news down here about, there's a lot of anti-tourists. So people are sort of saying you're buying the second home, stopping the locals from buying houses. It's a love-hate relationship with, because Cornwall needs the tourism, really. I mean, it brings in so much money every year to the county. But then there's people going, yeah, but these are all, there are villages, especially the beautiful seaside towns, that quite often close down really in winter, because there's hardly anybody living in them, because they've just been holiday lets over the summer months. So I mean, there's incredible pockets of poverty here, like there are anywhere in the country. But I think people see Cornwall as, they think it's all St Ives, they think it's all Padstow, they think it's all these beautiful places, and there are amazingly beautiful places here for sure. And it's and it's popular, and I love the tourists coming down here, and I love seeing people enjoy Cornwall. but yeah, it's taken us a while to get a house down here. It is, it is tricky. And so there is sort of a thread going through the book as well, where there are developers taking over, like the yoga studio, Mimi's yoga studio, and Eloise's art gallery. And there is this argument about, well, what they're going to do with it. Is it going to be affordable housing, or is it going to be, fancy flats for second home wankers? There is that kind of anger there as well. It's just, it's just me throwing in a little bit of social commentary as I go along, just to, which I quite like to do every now and again. But that's the reality of living here. Sometimes the weather's rubbish. You can't get a train out of Cornwall for love nor money sometimes, and it's difficult to get accommodation. But on the flip side, you've got some beautiful coastlines and beaches and a sea to swim in. So it's a balancing act all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all places are like that, aren't they? Nowhere's
perfect. There isn't enough housing pretty much anywhere. Houses are expensive. You do what you can to get by. You do sell the houses. You do rent them out to Airbnbs. It's how people need to get by and make money, isn't it?
So sorry, I thought someone had. Claire asked if you've used any of your boys' exes in your book.
They would kill me. As tempting as it might be. No, I haven't actually. I'm trying to think. Have I like, even subconsciously, have I? And I don't think I have. I think I can actually. Yeah, there are a few people every now and again I kind of slip in something that a friend has said to me or whatever. But I can honestly say my boys' partners have not made it into any characters. And Holly is, I think, more likely to be based on me as a teenage girl rather than their girlfriends.
Do your family read your books?
That's a sore point. Yes, they do. I mean, my husband does. My kids, they always say they will do, and they have copies of my books. And every now and again, when they don't know what to do, and I'm going, there's a book. Do you fancy reading? Do you want to read Mum's book? And they're very supportive, and they talk about me to their friends, and they, when I have a book launch, they drag their friends along. But they won't read my stuff. No, I mean, it's not written for 17-year-old boys, is it? It's not. There's no dragons in there. There's no battles. So no, they're supportive. They have read books in the past, but they haven't read this one. And I think I'm flogging a dead horse to try and get them to read this one. I think I just need to back off, and maybe they'll find their way to it one day.
What's the new book about that you've written as a script and a book?
That's a Christmas book, so completely different, but it's still a crime. So it's sort of based very loosely, but inspired by the Christmas Carol, the Dickens. So it's about a young woman whose estranged father dies, and she goes back to the village to sort out his estate, and accidentally gets visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, and they think they're visiting him to show him the error of their ways. And she ends up getting to know him a lot better, being able to see his past and things. But it also becomes apparent that his death was not as innocent as it seems, because I have to throw a death in, even if it's a nice warm Christmas story. I have to throw a death in there somewhere. It's all I know. So it's a Christmas book, because my whole point of my MA, my final project, was I wanted to see whether you could do a successful Christmas mystery, because Christmas is all about, those warm family togetherness, and I wanted to use all of that to make it more of a thriller. So where everybody else's family togetherness, it's highlighting the fact that my character doesn't have family, her family's just died, and Christmas trees and warmth, and she doesn't have that. So it's kind of started as a bit of an experiment to see how crime and Christmas go together. I mean, there are several successful Christmas books that are also crimes and mysteries, but it's the first time I've tried to write something like this. So it's been brilliant. But obviously I finished it during just before summer, because my MA finished over summer, and it's always difficult to be writing. I've never written something so firmly set in a season before. So I'm writing something Christmassy when it's absolutely baking sunshine outside, and that has been a little bit difficult to get my mindset into, and I wasn't feeling like playing Christmas carols and eating mince pies. So it was all memory of that one.
You're not someone who'll watch a Christmas movie in June or July then, just for the lols?
I considered it, but oh no, it felt wrong somehow. I mean, when I started writing it before last Christmas, it was the easiest thing ever. I'm seeing Christmas decorations everywhere and things ever, and I'm getting all that feel. But yeah, as I was editing it before summer, it was hard to remember everything, and I don't just want to say everything smells of cinnamon. trying to find extra ways to do it. But I know that writers do it all the time. They set things, in the snow, and they're writing it in the summer and things. It's just I've never done that before.
I love things set at Christmas. Yeah. The whole season of it. Even though everything smells of cinnamon, which I hate.
Yes, I can't stand cinnamon. But still love it. I'm even going into autumn, I'm not even really much of an autumn girl. I'm not a pumpkin spice latte sort of thing either. I'm holding on to summer as long as I can. And unfortunately it's gone now. But yeah, so writing Christmas books is, most of my books, I mean, they have an element of bad weather in them, usually. But this one, I mean, Vanishing Act is, it's set it starts off really hot. It's like one of the hottest days of the year. She's like sweating like mad and the pavements are melting. But that's easy to do when you're writing it and it's hot outside, which when I was writing it last year, it was really, really hot when I was writing it. So I have all of that. And then, like I say, write the Christmas one. It's Christmas when I start writing it, but not when I finished.
You, yeah. Do you have a family that sort of start the Christmas celebrations early?
I'm the family that starts it early. The rest of them would wait until Christmas Eve if they could, I think. But it's a constant battle of, I want the tree up on the 1st of December and they want it up on like the 24th. So there's like constant like battle. Yeah, I love all that kind of stuff. I've already bought in Halloween decorations. I know we're not even in October yet, and I'm ready for Halloween. I've got my Halloween socks. I've got a Halloween garland to go on my office door. Yeah, I love all that kind of stuff. I'm there with Halloween. I'm there with Christmas. I even have like an Easter tree. I have Easter baubles for a tree. Give me any season, I will celebrate it very happily.
Brilliant. Maybe now you've done a Christmas book, you can have like other seasonal themed.
Absolutely. Next one, write one at Easter next.
We're interested because you've got ghosts in this one. Would you ever veer out of, because psychological thrillers kind of close to edging into sort of other genres, aren't they? A bit like horror and things like that. Would you be tempted to cross genres?
Yeah, possibly. It's difficult really, because you have I mean, it's what the market wants as well, and I kind of hate writing to a market because I just write for me, but in order to get more book deals, obviously I need to write what the market wants. And so there's I think there is an interest for ghost stories, not necessarily a straight up ghost story, but that kind of, I think I like that kind of book. So I think there probably is. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say no, but yeah. And I've read a few crime books, and I won't say which ones actually, where characters turn out to have been deceased all along, or a ghost all along, and stuff like. I won't say because spoilers and all the rest of it. But I've loved those kind of books. I think there is I think I could still stay within crime writing, the crime genre, and also have sort of like spirits and what have you. It's just making sure it doesn't turn into some kind of farce, really, isn't it? Like, oh, and they were a ghost all along, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I was brought up on a diet of Stephen King. I probably wouldn't write anything horror, but I mean, Pet Sematary was the first book that ever really scared the life out of me. I mean, I was, as a kid, I was allowed to read whatever was on the bookshelves, and my mum had all like Pride and Prejudice and Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights. My dad had all the Stephen King, so I was like going between these two books. I probably wouldn't write horror, but I do enjoy just like something slightly different. That what is that? Or I like books as well that maybe look like they have a hint of supernatural, but then can get explained away by actually it's this. But yeah, I do love those kind of things. And again, going back to my MA, one of the things we had to do was write as if we been given a job to do. So write an extra episode for the X-Files. I didn't really watch X-Files when it was on, whenever it was on, and didn't really think I particularly enjoyed it. I loved writing a potential episode for the X-Files. Like, is it aliens? Is it this? Is something out there? Loved it. You have so much to play with. You know, you don't have to be constrained by, well, this is actually, that can't happen. Anything can happen in a sort of an X-Files type thing or something supernatural. So I think it would be incredibly good fun to write.
Yeah, I am. You're preaching to the converted here. I love those kind of stories.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Things with a hint of the supernatural, things that are outright supernatural.
Yeah.
Crime story. Absolutely love them.
Brilliant.
I'm here for it. If you decide to go down that route,
I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll be buying all the books.
Brilliant.
It's definitely a big fan of stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the hard things as a writer is quite often we have to stick to a lane unless we like do swap genre and things. And I read everything. You know, I don't just read crime books. I'm reading historical fiction at the moment. You know, and I swap around, and I've got Rewitched here. You know, and I read some YA and I read some horror, and I do read all kinds of things. And every now and again I read a book that's not in the genre I write in, and I think, like, I'm in awe of the skill. Like with historical fiction, I don't think I could write historical fiction just because the amount of research that's needed. So, but that's the only thing that's putting me off. I love reading it, but you know, friends who write historical fiction take 2 to 3 years to write a book because they're probably taking a year to do the research in the first place, and I don't have the patience for that. So I'll stick to writing my fun books that I will research for like 3 months tops, and then can get on with writing.
Fair enough. I've read Bewitched. It's a good book.
Oh, how are you? Yeah, it's here. It's the top of my pile, actually. Oh, where are we? Yeah. So that's top of my pile. The next one to read once I've finished the new Philippa Gregory, which is actually out on the 7th of October, but I've got an early copy of it. So I'm back to reading about the Tudors and the Boleyns at the moment, which is a fun read. And I think when I'm deep into writing a new book as well, I try not to read too many crime books. I don't want me second guessing myself. I don't want to accidentally take on any of their plot points. So sometimes it's good for me to go and read something completely different.
So I normally ask everyone in my author chats what they've read and recently and really enjoyed, and this seems to be the perfect time to ask you that, since we're on random other books.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a lot of proofs lately, so I don't want to necessarily say proofs because obviously people watching this won't be able to get their hands on them. But you're in for a treat next year with a couple of that I've read recently that are not out till next year. But Claire McIntosh's new one, It's Not What You Think, which is out in March next year. Absolutely, I think it's the best that she's ever written. There is a twist that I would defy anybody to see coming. Honestly, so get that on your TBR list for next year. But in terms of books that are already out, Listen for the Lie, Amy Tintera. I feel that not enough people are talking about it. When I read it, I was like, this is amazing. And it's in a similar vein to The Vanishing Act in that it has a true crime aspect to it. So there's a podcast and they're looking into the murder of this woman, and the main character in it, she was there the night her best friend was killed and she has amnesia. And there is some doubts whether or not she might have killed her best friend and she doesn't know herself. So she's piecing that together. So it was kind of interesting to me to read because of the Facebook group aspect of my book and then the podcast. I love a true crime angle. I really, I'm a fan of those kind of things. So Listen for the Lie, Amy Tintera, absolutely brilliant. And like I say, out next week, I think it's The Boleyn Traitor. It's called the Philippa Gregory for historical fiction. It's back to the like other Boleyn girl kind of magic. It's it's beautiful. I read a lot. I could go on and on and on. Oh, and this book and that book and the other book. But yeah, those are the ones that are my most recent reads anyway.
I haven't dipped into a Philippa Gregory book for ages.
Yeah,
but I
same.
do love her writing.
Yeah, I think it's like been, I don't know, 8 years or something since I read, maybe 10 years since I read The Other Berlin Girl and loved it. And then and then nothing since. And then this one, I was just offered a copy of it and I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. And I was like, I'm right back there. She's an amazing writer for like conjuring up the time and things. She's another one who must spend forever doing research and writing about. I mean, The Other Berlin Girl obviously was about characters that we know very well from history. With this one, it's the main character is Anne Boleyn's brother George. It's his wife, so somebody that we really don't know in history that well. And I love that. I love those kind of little, those figures that we don't really know that much about in history, but actually had quite a big impact. So I'm here for all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, me too. She wrote a really great YA trilogy.
Oh yeah,
that I really enjoyed, that I can't remember the name of now, but
I'll look into that. Yeah,
it was good. I like anything historical fiction, like historical crime fiction as well.
Yes, yeah, love that.
Always good. Would you ever be tempted to write a real person into your books?
I'm pausing because I actively don't, because I would hate anybody to be offended or but on the other hand, there are some characters that I have put a little bit of people into. So like in one of my other books, so there's an elderly character in it, and I put a little bit of my grandma in there. Just like some of her phrases and some of the stuff that she said. And I don't think anybody can be offended by that. And she's no longer with us either. And I do find that if you put a little bit of somebody you care about into a character, you're going to care about what happens to them. And they're a little bit more real to you. So I wouldn't base an entire character on somebody new. I think most fictional characters are a little bit larger than life than anybody you know anyway, aren't they? So they're not really super realistic. You're kind of really honing in on certain things. But yeah, I probably do, even subconsciously. There'll be a phrase that maybe one of my kids says or my husband will say or something, and that will make its way into a future book. But no, I think I would make a special effort not to, or if I did, I would completely change their hair color and eye color and make sure they're called something different so nobody would ever know it was based on them.
I guess living with someone from Cornwall gives you some kind of help in getting the phrasing and sort of
absolutely
peculiar words they might use to describe something correct.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of times I've started books I've not finished writing, and one I started writing a while back was a YA, and I may dust it off again another day, but it's set in the 70s, and the group of kids in it every now and again talk Cornish. I wanted Cornish dialect in it, and so he was a huge help for that. But yeah, that was something I was doing kind of in my downtime between projects that I had to do that I was being paid to do. And then work took over. So I put that to one side and didn't do any more of. But every now and again, I do think maybe I'll brush that one off again and make a really, really, really Cornish YA. So historical YA with having to have a glossary saying what that means. In the background. I mean, my Cornish is obviously nobody really speaks Cornish around here, but I have, I do know some of the phrases and things, but some older people will say Bramangath, which it sounds Welsh, doesn't it? But its literal translation is fart the cat, which makes no sense at all, but it's like, damn, and when I heard that phrase, I was like, well, it's going in a book somewhere. Just write that down for me. I need to get that in a book. There's some absolutely hilariously weird phrases that I think, well, the world needs to see that.
Yeah, people need to know. I love collecting random phrases from around the country, weird ways of describing stuff. It's great.
Yeah, I think so.
Right, we've got a few minutes left, so remind people who are watching what they're going to go away and buy.
So The Vanishing Act by me, Jo Jakeman, with a lovely I love the dragonfly. The dragonfly, when you read the book, you'll see that it is relevant. It might look a bit weird on their own, but the dragonfly is really significant in it. And the tagline is "Life as a missing person is absolute murder." And it's out of all the covers that the team have done for me, this is my absolute favorite. I think it's really fun. I love it.
And is that so for someone who's new to your writing? Would that be the best place to start on the journey, do you think? Is that
Absolutely, because they're all standalones. With my first couple of books, I did actually, there was a little bit of an Easter egg where there's a character in my second book that was in my first book. So those two kind of like go together. But this one, absolute, yeah, standalone. And maybe it's always because it's just my most recent book. I love it more. I don't know. Because I always, whenever a book comes out, I go, this one's my favorite book. So yeah, if you're going to buy any of my books, today, this is my favorite book until the next book comes out. Yeah, I would say start with this one because I'm quite proud of it.
you should be. It's a phenomenal book.
Thank you very much.
It definitely won't be the last one by you that I read.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's kind of the hope, isn't it? That people read it instead of go, oh, I'm never reading anything by her again. I hope people go, yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that. I'd read another one if I saw it.
Yeah. Or we'll actively seek out other ones.
I would hope
because
so.
it was so good. You see, that's what you're hoping for. They'll read this one and be, that's the best crime book I've read in months. I'm going to go back and buy all of her other ones.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you write it in such a bubble, and you know, my husband will read it and go, yeah, it's really good, but then I won't believe him because he's going to say nice things. And you know, you get a lot of positive feedback from editors and things, but until it actually goes out and real people read it who don't know you and have no reason to be nice to you, it's nerve-wracking, but it is so lovely, not just to see that people have enjoyed it, but the way they talk about it, the way you're talking about it. I know you get the book, like what I try to put into it, you're seeing, and that is like so satisfying for an author that I got across what I wanted to get across, and you got from the book what I hoped you get from it. It's the dream, isn't it? As an author, as a reader, you know, you want that kind of connection. So yes, thank you very much.
No problem. And thank you for joining us tonight.
It's an absolute pleasure. Really nice talking to you this evening. Thank you.